no soul can trap or harm or deceive another soul. So they have to move if you tell them to leave, they have to leave. It's just the command.
Hiya.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well. Super excited to be here.
If you want to tell the crowd a little bit about yourself, just a brief, and then we'll just hop back into our conversation. We were all in a juicy conversation, so we're going to do this quick intro and we'll hop in right back in. So let's go.
So my name is Corey, Corey Brandon, Soul Traveler 77 on YouTube. I am a out-of-body experiencer or out-of-body traveler. I came into this through the AYDA Method as taught by Darius J, Wright, and I've had a few experiences and I'm working to help promote the great work. So I started my YouTube channel so that I could share my experiences, and not just share my experiences, but also kind of share tips and things that people could use to help strengthen their opportunities to have out-of-body experiences. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me, from the United States, born in North Carolina, traveled all over the place, been in a few different countries, and now I'm just here trying to travel different dimensions and other things like that. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So for the sake of our conversation, we're going to continue right where we left off, and then we'll start popping into the structure that we already set up. Yeah.
Cool.
So we were just talking about the kids with the school.
Yeah.
We after we started homeschooling. That's a journey.
That wasn't deliberate.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. I can imagine. We did it for a little while. Right after COVID, we moved to another state. We put my son in middle school. He was struggling really bad. Not with the academics, just with the behavioral stuff. It was a new school. It was a pretty low funded school. So, he was starting to get in a little bit of trouble. So we just took him out and homeschooled him. And he did relatively well. Actually, he did really well, but it was an online program that the state provided that allowed us to kind of keep up with his work and kind of do it that way. So yeah, we did that for a little while. And then his mom was like, nah, you got to go back to school. So you got to get back in school. We don't want you to become desocialized from that perspective. But we ended up we were in Florida at the time. We ended up moving from Florida. So where we are now, it's a little bit better. The school system is a little bit better. So we were like, you're going back to school.
Yeah. We struggled with the whole thing. At the first year, it was tears. I'm not going to lie to you. It was tears on my behalf. Okay, the kids were fine. Okay,
right.
Every other day, I'd be just in shambles.
Yeah.
Because I found out how much they don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is this what brought up when that happened?
Tough.
Yeah.
It was tough. I was like, how were they signing them off and telling us that they knew these things? And when I'm asking them for real, they can't give me the answer.
Right.
And then I realized they don't have time to do these things. All these are just promises.
Right.
And there's no way to check. There's no way for you to check unless you checking against what they tell you and what your kid says. You're not going to get the information you think you're going to get. Because we were checking. We were always down the school, like PTA. Still didn't know. Still didn't know.
And from a broader perspective, knowing what I know now about what we currently live in, I understand that school is about indoctrination, not so much about learning. It's preparing you to be a cog in the construct. Wheel. In the wheel. Yeah, that's what it's preparing you for. It's what it prepared us for.
And I never took to school anyway, and I say that I still went to university.
Me too.
Dropped out of uni the first year. I passed the first year, and I said I'm not going back because.
I got my degree just because I like being away from home. The only reason I went to college was to stay away from home. That was it. That was it. I know, like that was literally it. In the United States, they have in-state tuition and out-of-state tuition. So if you go to a school that's out of your state, it costs like double the amount.
Yeah.
So I found a school in my state, but as far away from home as I could possibly be on the map. And that's the school I went to. I didn't check to see what their majors were or how it would benefit me. I just said, this school is as far away from home as I can get and still not have to pay that much money.
Yeah.
And that's why I chose. And I literally only stayed because it was it was the best time of my life. It was a great experience. But I didn't even, and ironically enough, the degree I ended up having, I never went into that field because once I saw what that field was like, I was a political science major. So once I lived in Washington, D.C. and saw what people did politically, I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. And I just went and did something else. So,
it's been the reason why it was a learning curve for us is because our kids came to us, sat us down and was like, look, I'm not for this school thing. And you can't, and I'll go because you want me to. But
I'm not going to give 110%.
I'm not. I can't. And I said, you know what? I can see that for you. Like, that's why you've been given the comeback and the feedback that we've been getting. And it's not like they're kids who aren't able. They're more than able. They just don't see why. And I don't have any good reason knowing what I know, to be able to justify that. So it's more now, what do you want to do with your life? And we support that. It sounds crazy, but that's what they do. Like, they already know what they want to do, and we support that.
It may sound crazy, but that is the future of where this whole thing is headed. Remember what we talked about before? Like, we're not, the construct is ending. So we're going to be doing what we want to do, what we're called to do, and like what we're passionate about. That is what the future of this whole experience is going to be. We talked about that a little bit off camera, and if we want to get into it again, we can. But ultimately, the future of all of this is less conformity to the matrix or to the construct, and more living out your purpose. And so that's what the future of a lot of this is coming to. Everything moves in cycles. So you have a golden age, and then you have a down age, and then you come back to a golden age and down age. And we're entering the last golden age. So we're going into a golden age in the very near future where we won't be working to pay bills. We'll be working on things that we love. So it's good that you're teaching your kids that now, because that's ultimately where this thing is going.
We lead a double life. Obviously, it's you. I'm chatting to you, right?
Right.
But you do OBEs. You've met Lyrens. Like, it's not the same conversation.
Right.
I'll be talking to my auntie. We all have a politically correct answer to give the family.
Exactly. Oh, well, you should, because if you throw too much at them, they're going to think you're crazy.
Oh, no. They already think we're crazy.
Oh, yeah.
We homeschool our kids.
Yeah.
My dad thinks I'm going to hell. So it's like, he's told me that. Like, you definitely going to hell.
No. Oh, snap.
Like, for sure. For sure, you're going to hell. And I had to explain to him that there is no such place and break it down to him. And he was like, no, that's even more of a reason why you're going to hell. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
it's just,
you're entitled to your own opinion.
And you got to walk the line between living in your integrity still and not surrounding yourself with anybody who's like too
far
egregious what you're doing, because their whole belief systems kind of have the tendency to kind of leak into places that you don't need them to.
So this is the thing, and this is what I came to grips with, that the more that I pursue this journey, the fewer people will be able to go with me. And I'm okay with that, because the people that are with me are the people that were supposed to be with me and agreed to be with me before I was ever born. And the people who will leave are still people that I may be friends with on the other side and still people that have played crucial roles, but they can only go with me to a certain point, and they only agree to go with me to a certain point, and then now I have to go on to a point without them, and that's all been designed. You agree to all of it, the good, the bad, the wins, the losses, the good people, the bad people. You agree to every piece of it before you were ever born. So I've learned that, and being on the other side, once you understand that, you're like, okay, I can accept whatever the experience is because I'm only here to have the experience. That's it. So, yeah.
So that's really good.
Poetically put. Yeah.
We've been asked to actually talk more about the construct in a bit. So we actually wanted to ask you, how did it start for you? Like, did you have any sort of like childhood experiences where, that was unusual, or like what started it?
Well, I'll tell you, our first experience was probably around 16, 17. I had sleep paralysis. I didn't know what it was. My family is deeply religious, and in my household in the South, Black people in the South call it the devil on your back. That's what it's called. Like the old grandmas, they call it the devil on your back, because you can't move. Like you're awake, but you can't, literally physically can't move. So you wake up, you can't move your body at all. And so that's what sleep paralysis typically is. Just most people experience it going into sleep paralysis. I experienced it coming awake, in an awakened state. So I woke up, but my body was still in sleep paralysis, but my soul was awake. And I remember I was laying on my stomach and I couldn't move, and I was fully awake. I knew I was awake, and I just couldn't move. Like I'm trying my muscles. I'm thinking I'm tensing my muscles to push up off the bed, but nothing's moving. And again, at the time, I'm super religious. The family's super religious. So the first thing I think about is say Jesus, 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 Jesus. They teach you that in church. If you ever have sleep paralysis, say Jesus' name a bunch of times and it'll stop. So that's the first thing I remember being told to me. And I just kept saying Jesus, 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 Jesus. And then I came out of sleep paralysis, which I was going to anyway. It wasn't Jesus that did it. It's just a natural thing that was going to happen anyway. But which is evident because you got to say Jesus more than one time. You should only have to say it once. If it's really just Jesus, then you should only have to say it once and it should be over. But if I got to call on him, if he's everywhere and he's God and all this stuff, then I should only have to call his name once and it's over. But I said it like 20 times before it stopped. So that was the first experience I had with sleep paralysis. And I don't make jokes about Jesus because he is a real person. He's our brother. He's a soul. He's part of the construct. He's part of all of our experience here. It's just what they have done to his namesake is
his image,
treacherous, to say the least.
Listen, the PR was crazy on that. I don't know who the management was for PR.
Well, we know who it was. It was Emperor Constantine. And when he made up his version of what Jesus was,
he went in.
He made it a whole thing. So, but with that being said, that was my first experience. Now, my second experience, and this was a little bit more, and this was all within the same year. Typically, what I've been finding is that people who've had sleep paralysis at a young age, it's usually in their teens, somewhere between 12 to 16, 17 years old. So I'm probably sure I had it other times. I just don't remember, but these are specific events that I remember. The second time I was laying in my bed, I was sick. It was the middle of the night. I was awake, but I couldn't move. I was in sleep paralysis. But I was sleeping kind of like this, and I could see a being sitting in a chair at the chair at my desk next to my bed. It's like a shadow. It didn't have a face or anything, just a shadow. And I looked, and as I'm looking at the being like this, and I'm kind of scanning, the being hand was holding my hand. And I didn't believe quite what I was seeing, so I squeezed my hand, and it was an actual hand in my hand. I felt the hand in my hand.
How old were you at this point?
About 16, 17 years old. It was one of them.
Okay.
I still remember exactly how it happened.
I used
the same year.
I'm happy
It's
you
the
said
same
that.
year. This is the same year within the same year calendar.
Did you notice like other event that caused all of this? Because sometime when these events happen, no,
it just started.
So I'll say this: it could have been caused by things that were happening in church. Because, like I said, I didn't say it. I said it earlier, but excuse me. We're a deeply religious household. Grew up in kind of like a Pentecostal church, so they believe in speaking in tongues and all this spiritual stuff. Excuse me. Conjuring up type of spiritual awakenings or whatever in the name of God or Jesus or whatever. So that could have been something that triggered it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I honestly don't know, because I was scared to death of it, and I was like, this can't be. It was weird because I felt like it had to be something demonic, like they would say in church, but it didn't feel demonic because he was holding my hand and I was sick. And it felt like he was there to comfort me. So it's probably my spirit guide. I've seen shadow beings since then. I have, other than the Lyrans and a couple other beings, most of the beings I've seen have been shadows. So it's like a human form, but it's dark. It's like a shadow. And I've seen that in my own house even today. But
see, I want to talk about that with you because I used to always see shadows from young. Always foot off my bed or in my bedroom in the corner. I used to get really mad at them after a while because they didn't used to answer me then.
Right.
Some of them would smile. Yeah. Or some of them would just be like,
you're like,
I'm here.
I'm just
I'm
here.
here. And I used to be like, if you don't say anything, I promise you I'm coming out of this bed. It was like that.
Right.
I wasn't coming out of nowhere.
Right, yeah, nah.
Empty threats.
You're not. I was very empty.
So empty. I was shook, okay?
Right,
So what other beings have you seen, if any? Like, because I've also experienced seraphims.
Okay, yeah.
They come cloaked, but they're not really shadow. Have you experienced them?
No.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, and I'll just give you a list of beings I've experienced. I've experienced shadow beings. I've experienced fairies. I've experienced, I don't know what this being was. It was a short, and it was probably my son's spirit guide, but he was short, light skinned, had a bald head, and he was like a regular dude. And he was in my son's room, one experience I had, and I just walked up to him. We were laughing kind of with each other, and then I kind of left.
How short was he?
He was like, he wasn't midget size. If that's, I don't know, is that a word we can say now? I don't know. We got all these
little people,
politically correct little people. So he wasn't a little person. He was more taller than that. So I would say maybe 5'2", 5'3", something like. He was short. But I remember that one experience. That was the one where I came out of my body and I was walking through my house, and I have a video about that on my channel. But I was walking through my house. I came in my room. I saw the shadow being that was standing over my wife on her side of the bed, and I tapped it on the shoulder, and it kind of just turned, and it didn't have a face. It was just a shadow. And I just looked at it, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. And walked out. And then I walked past my son's room, and I seen beings in there, fairies flying around. And I was like, oh, shoot. I walked in his room, and there's a little guy in there, and he turned around and he looked at me, and we just started laughing. So clearly this is a being I know on the other side. And then I saw another shadow being in my daughter's room, and then that's when I woke up for that OBE. But and then Lyrans, whatever you call them. And so that was during a time where I was heavy into the Anunnaki story and learning about that, and how that is really the precursor to the biblical stories, and how the Bible is really just a copy of the Sumerian text, which is older, like 6,000 years older than that. And the Lyrans are an older story than the Anunnaki story. So the Anunnaki or the Atlanteans come from a mix of race of Lyrans and a race of reptilians. This is according to the story. Again, this is not something I've confirmed in the OBE state. I am working on that now because I definitely love history. So I try to.
When you said Lyrans, I was like, I need to know more, because I had my experience with Lyrans, and I was like, I need to know, because I was like, how do I know this guy? And I woke up, I was already sitting next to one.
Yeah. So with that being said, that could have been one of the lives you've lived in this construct. See, this is what people got to remember: is 12 realms. You've played in all 12 of them.
Well, this is the thing. Sometimes I go back and I've been living my past lives since I was about 20.
All right.
Non-stop, to the
All
point
right.
where I've lived in other places for the longest I've been away, a year.
Yeah. Okay.
I was shook because I was like, I got to get back.
Yeah. So you be in those
I
states.
swear. I thought that, for sure, I'm coming back. I'll be in hospital, prepare myself. Right. They're going to say I was in a coma. Like, I thought time had gone.
But then once you find out that time doesn't exist.
It was the next morning.
Time doesn't exist outside of this construct.
These are all things I'm learning, as of more recent. But at the time,
you like,
didn't
what?
know.
Am I in a coma? Like, what's going on?
I said, this is a coma for sure. And then obviously I didn't know about OBEs at the time, so I wasn't, the dots were...
Dots didn't connect yet.
Didn't connect yet. But
had that happened to me, I would have felt the exact same way, because if you don't know, if you're not conscious of what's happening, you really kind of like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, and all it was for years is that I go to sleep, I wake up somewhere else, I am somebody else, and I have some things to do. It's either I'm helping someone I've known for a long time, or I am that person I have to live out a part of their life for a certain amount of time. And that's all I knew.
Yeah. Well, that's the beautiful part of your experience, is that you literally are conscious of this, because this is what we all are doing every night when we go to sleep. Yeah. If you believe that your soul is asleep while you're asleep, then I don't know what to tell you. Your soul doesn't need sleep. Your soul doesn't need food. Your soul doesn't need any of the things that this physical form needs in order to function properly. So when your body goes, this is what we learn when we start doing the OBE experience. We learn that our body is just the temple, and it's I like to call it the Iron Man suit, and your soul is Tony Stark's in the inside. Like, you know what I mean? That's the best analogy I could come with.
Yeah.
Your physical form is the Iron Man suit. Your soul is Tony Stark's. When at night, Tony Stark's does his own thing, and the Iron Man suit rests in the bed. And so this is happening to everybody every night. We're just not conscious of it because we fall asleep before we go into sleep paralysis.
Well, talking about sleep paralysis, well, I don't know if you experienced that, but now looking back, knowing what I know now, I've actually realized I was started experiencing sleep paralysis. So I used to, because we work in the music industry, and I used to produce late at night. So by the time I used to go to bed, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to bed, starting to laying down on my front, and then I started not being able to breathe, but it was a weird sensation. So I used to do what I call now reset. So I used to just wake myself up before it goes too far. Mm-hmm. But I realized that was actually, I was going into sleep paralysis. Mm-hmm. But obviously when you don't know what's going on, you panic. So you cannot, and I was conscious of it. It wasn't like I found myself in sleep paralysis. I just now realized this is what was happening constantly. To a point that one time I heard like a big bang in my head, and I thought I must be bleeding, and I kid you not, and I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, okay, I seem fine. I just went to sleep. I did not realize at that point that's what was going on. So were you able to kind of like look back at some of the experiences now? And be like, oh, this is what that was, or this is what that was, and actually explain and these things.
Okay, so yes and no. So like the experience I told you about when I was a teenager, after that, I saw that being in a room, I suppressed all of that. Like I'd never had another sleep paralysis event after that because I was scared. I didn't tell anybody about it because I didn't want my parents to start like put me in the front of the church and have people pray over me or some weird stuff. Like I didn't want to feel weird because of what I saw. And I didn't want nobody saying, oh, I'm possessed with demons or none of that crazy stuff, because again, my household was very religious. So I kind of suppressed it. I never really explored it or asked any more questions. I was just like, oh, that's something that happened, and I just moved on. So fast forward 30 years later, is when I found out about the out-of-body experience and how to have control out-of-body experiences, how I found Darius J. Wright, and we can get into that if you want to go into that detail. But that's when I understood that, okay, through trial and error, obviously, I can control parts of this. And some of this stuff, like you just said something like you can't breathe and you panic. I did that even after I knew what was going on. My experience where I put in the video where I was laying on the couch and I floated out of my body. Like when I was floating out of my body, I was trying to not float out of my body because I was like, what the hell is going on? Because that's the first time I'd ever done it that way. Most of the times when I have an OBE, I just wake up and I open my eyes, my soul eyes, and I'm at a place, or I'm at, this place or that place.
That's really good to hear, because that's how I do 99% of mine.
So
and
let me tell you,
for years. So explain that.
I tell people all the time, and before I go into that, I tell people all the time, this is not a cookie cutter method. The method of putting yourself in sleep paralysis is the same every time, but how you come out could vary. It could vary based on the person. It could vary based on the time. Like I've done all these different ways of having sleep paralysis. One time I didn't come out my body, but I was sleeping on my stomach and I was pushing up out my body like this. And I was like, am I awake or am I asleep? I thought I was awake, like doing a push-up to get up out of bed. But it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I was in the bed. I see myself sleeping. So I'm trying to do a push-up. And I feel myself pulling back into my body while I'm trying to push out of it. And I got so excited. I started screaming in my mind, but it was audible. So I was like, hey, yo, hey, yo, hey, yo. Oh, my God, oh, my God. And I'm thinking I'm saying this verbally, but my wife is sleeping next to me. She hears none of this. This is all my telepathic voice coming out. And I'm trying to push myself out of my body, and I got sucked back in. So that was an experience I had. And I tell people all the time, if you don't have a big, grandiose experience every time, that's okay. Some of this stuff is meant for you just to start experiencing the little feelings so you know for the next time. And that brings us back to the Lyran thing. When I saw those Lyrans, I told them to move because I thought they were trying to stop me from going where I wanted to go. And I remember Darius told us that no soul can trap or harm or deceive another soul. So they have to move if you tell them to leave, they have to leave. It's just the command.
That changed what you're telling me about that. And we watched that video that you did with that testimonial as well. So when I heard that, and obviously Darius reinforcing that no soul can ever harm another, like you can't, and unless they believe it to be true.
Exactly.
That changed the game for me.
It changed everything. It removed all the fear.
It just removed everything because I was like, if I check it for what it is, I've been moving in these dreams not knowing it's me. But I've been moving and still having command over things. Just the way my personality is set up, I'm not out here being egregious to anyone anyway.
Right.
But now I know that I have nothing to fear. It's just been different. I've been having access to so many different beings, places. And that's why I was like, for the Lyrans, I was sitting down and chatting to him. We were catching up. Like I knew him. He was my friend.
And that's funny because that's what Darius told me I should have done. I should have stopped and talked to him because they probably would have told me more information about me, because that night.
They probably knew you.
I probably was one of them.
They probably came through like, oh wow, it's Corey.
Oh, that's Corey. Like, let's go chat. Yeah, let's go chat him up. Nah, I was like, move, because I didn't know. Like I'm trying to get to a destination because that night I had set the intention to go outside of the construct. Period. I want to go totally out. So I've gone through the first level, which we're in realm 1 or heaven 1. I had gone through a star and went into to heaven 2. So I'm in the galactic heavens. I'm in the stratosphere. I'm seeing more stars ahead. So a couple of things I learned from that is, stars are not what NASA says stars are. Stars are portals or even stargates to other dimensions. which is why pyramids line up with stars. Because inside of the pyramids, there are stargates. So when you walk in that water stargate, it shoots you through that star and puts you in that other dimension. So I figured that out, going through a star. And it was like the size of the moon, but it wasn't the moon. It was just white. And I said, that's a portal. I looked at it and I said, that's a portal. And I just said, shot through.
Let's talk about portals just quickly. Hang on, go.
Yeah,
go.
Just before.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you what I see as being an important questions for clarification. Sure. So what is the difference between OBE and astral travel? Are they the same? Do you experience both? Or what's your opinion on that?
So I'm going to be honest with you guys. And I told you guys before we started this, I'm never going to tell you something I don't know. I'm just going to tell you what I do know. And what if I don't know it, I'm going to say I don't know. I don't know anything about astral projection. From what I've been told, it's kind of like OBE, but also from what I'm told, it feels like you're just an observer. So you're there in the sense that you can see all these things, but you can't touch or feel anything. And that's the difference that I understand. And the OBE is physical. Like you can touch the wall, you can touch, like I walked on the floor. When I was taken outside of the construct and I was in that office, I felt the texture of the carpet on my feet. When the first experience I had, I brushed up against my car when I was going outside. When I was walking, when I was floating outside, I kind of brushed up against my car. I felt it. So I think that's the difference between the OBE. And again, I could be wrong. I don't know. People who have done astral projection could correct me. I don't know. But from my understanding, I think that's the difference, is that in astral projection, your soul comes out, but you're more so like an observer. So you're watching things out in the astral plane or whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And you're tethered. It feels like when they talk about astral projection, it's always this tether that's tethering you to your body. I've never felt that. Like I've never felt anything holding me to my body.
Holding you.
Okay. No, once I leave my body and I'm away from my body, I'm Corey outside wherever I'm at.
All right. So it sounds like the way you describe it, probably like a remote viewing, very similar astral travel.
Yeah, astral travel, remote viewing. And so in that regard, yes, I have done remote viewing before.
How was that experience for you?
It's the same as OBE. You just don't touch anything. It's like you almost just watching, and you watching from a first person perspective, but you never touch anything. You kind of just, things are just happening in front of you. So I have experienced that before. The time I was talking about the future event, that was more of a remote viewing situation. I didn't touch anything. I didn't feel anything physical. I just saw this scene happening, and I was part of it, but I was more of an observer. I didn't touch anything or feel anything physical.
I understand. We know everyone's got different linguistics for a lot of things. So it's more about getting what your one is.
And to be honest, what does it matter? If you're getting outside of your body, whether you want to call it astral projection, remote viewing, the key is learning that you have the ability to do this. And then if you want to go into something deeper as far as OBEs, where you actually have the physical part to it, you can do that as well. It's like Darius says, astral projection, remote viewing is kind of like child's play compared to OBE. And the reason he says that is because OBEs are physical. Like you're physically there, you can touch, smell, hear, like everything is the same as though you're in your, matter of fact, it's more physical. So you can touch and you can see more. Like the first time I saw the whole light spectrum, because I saw not the whole light spectrum, but I saw light without a light source. So when I went outside, I looked up, the sky was bright, but there was no sun. It was just bright light. And it don't matter how bright it is outside. If you go outside, you can always locate the sun and see the circle. Yeah. Well, I was in that OBE, I was looking up and I didn't see anything. Just pure bright white light. And I looked for a while because I was looking for the sun. Yeah. And I was looking from the direction in which I felt like the source was coming from. And I looked all around, no sun, no nothing. It was just pure light. So that what I was told by somebody else who does OBEs is that I probably was seeing the light that I was projecting as a soul. And that's why you didn't see the sun, because you are pure energy outside of this body. Your soul is pure energy.
Have you, then I'll ask, have you ever seen what form you take when you're outside of your body? Like, have you ever looked in the mirror or seen your reflection?
Man, and so this is the crazy part. And I'm still waiting to have that experience. I almost had an experience like that. So a lot of these experiences be short, so I don't do a whole video on them. But one, I was putting myself in sleep paralysis, and I sat up in bed, and there was a mirror in my lap, like a big mirror in my lap. And when I say it lasted for this experience lasted like a minute. So I'm looking in the mirror, and it's waving like water. And everything in me said, go into the mirror. But then I woke up. Oh, so it was like, dang.
Yeah.
And so again, and that made me go ask Darius. So I talked to him and I asked him, is there a way to control how long these experiences are? And he said he didn't know. He said there wasn't any way that you can control how long it is. Just kind of is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I guess if time that doesn't exist, it's difficult to
exactly how to comprehend how much time you need to be there. Right. Yeah. So I was sitting up in my bed, and it was a mirror, and I'm holding it on the sides, and it's in my lap.
Close.
And I was like looking, but I looked, and it was just like a shadow figure of me. So I didn't concentrate enough to get the actual view. Yeah. And then because people don't understand, when you first coming out of your body, you're not 100% conscious. Sometimes you're 80%, 70, 50% conscious. That's why it's dark or it's blurry, because your soul eyes are still trying to adjust to you leaving your physical eyes and going into the soul realm.
I've pulled my eyes open, like my soul eyes. I've just been straining them open. Or sometimes, like when I after I'd found out about Darius and I had my first conscious out-of-body experience, knowingly controlled, sat up in my body. I was having a wonderful experience with 3 of my guides. Right. Like, they gave me it was like, right, let's get as much information in as possible. Yeah. They would drop in math. They were just telling me about what I got to get together. They were getting me together. And then the last one, she introduced herself. She held my hand. I was like, oh, wow. I was touching their faces. I wanted to know, is this...
Yeah.
I was
touching... real?
It's
physical?
And then I started to just drift off. And I promise you, I was fighting my eyes to stay open, but they were just...
like, come on back home now. You done had enough time over there,
And she was like, oh, she's going off now. And I was like... Bye.
Bye.
So I get how you feel, but
that was the closest I ever came to the mirror thing. Cause like the times I've come out of my body, like I said, most of the times I just go to the places. Like when I went to the halls of Amenti, when I opened my eyes, I was at my father's house, and then it got dark and it became like this dark. I don't know if I went to the void or what, but it was a dark space, and I knew I was somewhere, but I couldn't see anything. And then I commanded to go to the halls of Amenti, and then I showed up there. So I would say, with the exception of 2 times, I just kind of showed up in these places and kind of physically touched things and saw things, whatever. But the times that I actually was able to come out of my body and like look back and see myself sleep, the one time I did it in the house, it was just... I just walked through the house. I was like, what? And I literally, and the crazy part about it was, you don't lose yourself and who you are. I'm a naturally inquisitive person. So me being inquisitive kind of messed up my travel, because when I was walking down the hall, I was about to walk out my front door. That was the plan. And then go explore. But a big shadow being walked in the front door as I was walking down the hall. So the shadow being is doing this and turned down the hallway as I'm walking the hall to go out the door. So I seen the shadow being, I'm like, who is that? So I said, I need to see who that is. And that took my attention off of going wherever I was planning on going when I set my intention. So when I saw that shadow being, I said, oh, shoot, what's that? And so I walked, and that's the one that walked, and then it kind of stood next to my wife's bed. So I'm assuming it was my wife's spirit guide or whatever. And I walked up to it, And I'm literally, because I'm in my room now, my bedroom right now, and I'm looking at the spot where it was standing. And I walked up to it and I tapped it on the shoulder, physically tapped it. I was like, hey, like, who are you? And it turned around. I didn't see a face. It was just a shadow. And I just looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. And then I walked out.
I guess its demeanor wasn't of any threat to you. So you were just
and this is the thing. I don't believe anything is a threat to me. So nothing will ever present itself as a threat to me. And so, because of, I know the control I have on the other side. And I know nothing can harm me unless I believe it to be so.
So talking about consciousness, I had an experience where before I went to bed, it wasn't really intentional. It was intentional, but it wasn't at the same time. So what I wanted is 100% consciousness. If I ever come out of my body, then to have 100% consciousness. But then once I was on the other side, I realized I was almost on autopilot, because I went to a place, I opened a cupboard, and I found 2 mirrors there. I'm like, I never put them there. But somewhere I knew where they were, took them. They like, sort of like, these tiles, mirror looking, and I put my hand in it and I went somewhere.
Yeah.
So the reason why I mention this is because there's a perfect method in which you set up your experiences, or there's a particular method you use in order to keep your consciousness there? Because I did notice that as I went on, my consciousness level went down. Like I started with like 100%, and then slowly, a bit like in a video game where your life bar just diminishes as you go along. So how do you prevent this? Do you have a method? Do you prepare yourself like a few hours before? What do you do exactly?
So I'll say this is a method I came up with probably right before my latest experience. And so what I do is I calm myself. There's a 15-minute meditation I listen to, just a guided meditation, just to calm my body and calm my mind. And I'll take a bath, listen to that meditation, get myself all the way calm. Now I'm in a space where I'm not trying to have an experience. I'm accepting whatever experience comes. And then I have to put myself in that mind frame of that. I'm not Darius. Darius has been doing this for years. And it doesn't mean you have to do it for years, but I'm saying he has more experience with going through the method than I do. So my thing is make sure I'm following the AYDA method properly, but also set my expectations that I'm okay if it doesn't work this time. I don't get frustrated. I don't allow myself to get frustrated during the process. And just tell myself, set my intentions. So after I do my meditation, I lay down, I put on my headphones, I wear an eye mask. I usually lay on my back, but with my head tilted up, like a probably 45-degree angle. So I'm not laying all the way down. I lay kind of up. Then I set my intentions, and then I let my thoughts run, because as long as I'm thinking, I'm not sleeping. So I let my thoughts run, let thoughts process, and then I go again and set my intention. So this is what I want to do. This is what I see. I envision myself coming out of my body and what I want to do when I first come out of my body. So I want to come out. I want to look at my hands and stare at them so I can get full consciousness, 100% consciousness, because that's the way you can kind of get consciousness from a dream state. So like you are in a dream and you want to come out of your body through a dream. If you're in a dream, you can recognize you're dreaming, find something to focus on and keep your gaze and focus on that. And it'll automatically bring your body out of your soul, your solar exit through the dream state. So Darius taught us that. And so I said, well, what I'm going to do is when I come out, even if I come out consciously, meaning if I sit up and I see my body turn around, I'm going to step away from my body and I'm going to look at my hands, make sure that I'm fully 100% conscious, and that I can see my form. And so from there is, where do I want to go? What do I want to see? So right now, my target is the records. I want to go to the soul records. I want to find out more about my past lives. more about future lives. And the reason why I say past and future is because all of those are happening at the same time on the other side. So your future self, your past self is all having that experience right now. On the other side, there is no past, present, future.
I can confirm that one.
Right. So
yeah. Have you managed to do any of them? Have you managed to go into your soul records in any way?
Past, so I have experienced past lives.
Any part of your instance?
I have experienced a tidbit of a past. As a matter of fact, I experienced a past death. So yeah, and again, I don't do videos of everything because in the beginning when I started having these experiences, I wasn't thinking about going on YouTube. I wasn't going to do. People know me. I'm not about any of that. I'm a guy who just to himself, mind his business. And the only reason I'm even doing it now is because I have a conversation me and Darius had, and it's my duty to help push the great work. And so any way I can do that, I will. But I had an experience where I was going to sleep paralysis. I was putting myself AYDA Method, put myself in sleep paralysis, and I woke up and I was in the back of a car. And this car was like an old car from like the 30s or 40s. And it was two men in the front seat, and they were speaking a language I didn't know. So clearly this was in another country. It was in another country because when I was looking out the front window, I was like, where am I at? Like, this is in another country, Africa, India, somewhere like that.
Okay.
And these two gentlemen were yelling at me, la, 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 and I'm in the back seat, and I'm like, hey, look. And it's a bus coming right towards us, like a big old school bus.
Yeah.
And hey, and I screamed, and the next thing you know, I woke up. So I'm assuming that was like a past death.
Yeah.
Or a past experience. Maybe I didn't die at that moment, but I know in that moment, and I was physically there. I felt the chair, the leather of the chair, all that. I can remember all that. I just wasn't there long enough for my soul to comprehend the language they were speaking. Had I been there a little bit longer, it would have automatically came to me what was happening.
What was going on.
So is there any difference between lucid dreaming and OBE?
I think when I think of lucid dreaming, I think of the same thing as astral projection. All of that is having awareness of what's going on, but not physically being able to touch it or feel it from a physical standpoint. I think that is the ultimate difference between the OBE state and anything else. Is physical. It's more physical than physical. The difference is you have so much control. You can put your hand on a wall and then push your hand through a wall. Because the only things, so I started studying this too, because I started studying what we truly are and what this whole thing is. And all it is vibration. Everything is energy. Literally, the whole thing. A solid object is literally just a frequency. And that your hand is a different frequency. And that frequency is repelled by the wall. So that's why when you touch a wall, it doesn't go through it, because the frequency of the wall repels the frequency of your hand. As a soul, you are all frequencies. So all you got to do is match the frequency of the wall. You can walk through a wall, and you can do that as a soul because there are no limits to what you can do. So this is why you're limitless. This is why you can fly, because here, buoyancy, not gravity, buoyancy keeps us grounded on the earth. We are heavier than the air, right? So if our frequency can match the air, we can fly. So as a soul, your frequency can match the frequency of your soul can match the frequency of the air, so you can fly. There's nothing to stop you. So I learned that through the out of body process, out of body experience, and also through just studying and learning about frequency. So I think the biggest difference is that when you're in the out of body state, you're tuned into all the frequencies, every frequency, because there is no limitation. So you can touch and feel and even taste if you want. Whereas when I look at astral projection, lucid dreaming, you're more of an observer. You're observing from the third person. It's just that you're not tapped into every frequency available.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It does.
The more you say about stuff, I'm just like, because quite frankly, imagine going through all of this thing and just thinking, my dreams are different to everybody else's, and that's that.
Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, a lot of this stuff was downloaded into me. So when you go to the other side, you get certain downloads. You wake up and you be like, how did I know that? Or how did I even want to, like, you go to the other side, when you bring some of that download back, it propels you to go find answers in your realm, like in the realm.
It's fun. It's fun because you were saying that you are a curious person, like you're naturally curious.
Just nature, naturally.
Yeah, that's me. So I be getting sidetracked all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I swear I'm going to the halls of Amente and I end up somewhere on... Like, I ended up in the angel realms. I ended up reading scrolls up there with people. I ended up in what I was told at the time was the God realm in a lifetime that I lived. And they were like, I'm going to do stories about this, but just between us, like, it was just like, hi, sister, like, you're back. Like, are you ready now? And I was like, what? Ready?
Because you've played in all the realms. You've been a part of all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing. But I woke up there and I was in this beautiful tunnel, but I was in a tunnel. It was like very light and everyone was in gold armor. And then my one was in front of me and I was like, armor? I was like picking it up and then I saw like matching armor next to me and I was like, and they were like, are you ready? And I was like, ready?
Ready for what? Like what?
Ready for what?
Right.
And they were like, you remember you're here now? And I was like, whose is that? And then immediately I met whose it was. And he was like, I knew you'd come back. And I was like, your name is? It was, and he gave me his name. Like, I've been piecing this together and it's phenomenal because, like, then I'll come back and I'll type it in. Now, this is me on going to the halls of Amente. So you could, sidetracked is an understatement.
Yeah. Now, listen.
Because every morning he'd be like, did you go to the halls of Amente? I was like, babe,
nah, I went somewhere else.
Where I went?
Where's where I went? Yeah.
I saw Amazonian last night and we were chatting. You know that they're quite sexist. I'm not going to lie to you. And he'd be but the halls of Amente, and I'd be like, yeah. About that.
Yeah. No, listen, and that's funny. So can I tell you something you said? It matched what she said, and it's kind of like you said that. What was it you said? You said something to the effect that you kind of going through the motions, like you kind of an autopilot. That's what you said, autopilot.
Yeah.
And so that has been my experience. So when I went to the halls, I was in autopilot up until that point. Everything went dark, and then I said, "Why?" I started remembering what I was originally here to do, and I said, "Take me to the halls of Amente. Take me to the halls of Amente." And then I appeared there. But had it not got dark, I probably would have stayed there and explored that experience and never went to the hall. It was only because it got dark and maybe that was the spirit God's way of kind of shifting my consciousness. Like, hey, you lingering here too long. You got it. Your intention was to go to the halls. So I'm always careful to say this. Do not compare your experiences to other people's experiences. And I teach people, and that's what I've been talking about on my last few videos, or not last few, but I had a video on that, because comparison is the thief of joy. And you won't enjoy this experience if you always worried about, well, why am I not seeing what this person is seeing? Like, you've seen things I haven't seen.
Well,
and like
that video that you did, that was fire. That was a really good video. Like, I was like, see, that's what I'm saying. This is what I was saying.
And I think it's just a real thing because people are getting discouraged. They're joining the AYDA method and getting discouraged because people's stories are different. And I'm like, yeah, but who cares? The purpose isn't for you to have a bunch of great stories. The purpose is for you to remember. And we all going to start remembering more and more as we keep doing it. Ultimately, it don't matter what the story was because the whole construct is going to end. So every piece of the construct you've experienced is going to end. It's going to be over, and it's going to end in a celebration. So,
well, it's good you said that about people in the AYDA method feeling that way, because then there's us who wanted to go into the AYDA method and is like, it's not the time right now. And we just literally had to sit down with each other and be like, look, we didn't even know about this a year and a half ago. It didn't exist to us, yeah?
Right.
You were still having your experiences. You just didn't know what it was. Now we have clarity. There's so many more people bringing clarity around it. Let's just use
what you got,
what we have, and still continue. And so much has happened. So now we did our videos now. The reason I do my videos is because this is for people who, you haven't done the AYDA method yet? We've still got a great eye on the AYDA method. If we get the opportunity to do it, when we get the opportunity to do it, we'll do it. But until then, you're still enough.
So let me tell you this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want to be very clear on this point. The AYDA method, people have been having OBEs before the AYDA method existed. So there is nobody has a leash on how it has to be done. Darius, and this is why I love the guy, he never asks you to worship him. He never asks you to follow him. He just says, here's how you can do it. Go experience it. And I'm going to show you how it's done. If you can find out somebody, and the reason I'm saying that is because somebody in my Telegram group asked me, should I pay for the AYDA method? And I said, well, I'll tell you this. I'll never say you shouldn't pay for it because it changed my life. Without it, I would have never found this. This was the way it came from me. So I'll never tell you this. But if you're having experiences without it, then you've already received the results of the AYDA method. So keep doing what you're doing and keep having your experiences, and then talk to people around you who are in this community who can help you navigate what you're experiencing and learn from it or whatnot. Now, I don't teach the AYDA method. I won't do that. I would never do that to Darius. So I don't tell people how the AYDA method works. If you can figure it out, great, because I understand why he charges money for it.
It looks extensive. It looks like he went through a lot, and since we looked to now, there's even more.
Yeah, he went through a lot to learn this method. People find value in things that they pay for. And that's just a natural human thing. And so people won't play with it if they know they had to sacrifice something to get it, whether it be money. And we don't even, and the funny thing is, Darius, people we don't believe in money. We don't believe there's any value in it. But he still got to live. He still has
we're still here.
And we're still here. And the things that he's taught, and not just the AYDA method, but he's doing workshops. So now he's teaching on other things that you can get in the workshops. And so now we're learning how to, some of the target groups he done put us in, to target certain things. I would have never made it to the halls of a mentee if I would have just known how to do it myself, right? Because I would have never set my intention to go there because I didn't even know it existed. So while I will say this was the route it took for me, if you're having experiences or you can learn from somebody who's having experiences and you can duplicate their method, then do that way. But if you can afford to, and I know everybody can't afford it. When I tell you I had a pretty good job, and I said when I say that I had a pretty good job, it wasn't the greatest job in the world. It was a good enough job I could afford it. But that doesn't mean that it was just like, oh, I have unlimited resources, let me just buy the method. No, I had to sacrifice some things that I would have spent that money on that I probably my flesh wanted more. But I said, at this point, I'm searching for something, and this is the route that's going to get me there. I can spend $200 on this, or I can spend $200 on something that's not going to give me what I want. Now, if you can get what you want without having to spend it, do it. And so I was telling somebody that today.
Well, I think
that's great.
I think ultimately we may not all be doing the AYDA method simply because the way you have to be activated might be in different ways. You choose it in different ways. So perhaps you don't have the money right now, but that's because maybe you never. That's not the way it's supposed to happen
for you.
And
exactly.
For you, exactly. Yeah. Because when I kind of look back now, since I've heard what I've heard, because when I came out, it's not that it wasn't my intention to come out, but I wasn't particularly going to do the AYDA method. I wasn't going to do any of it really. It was more you.
This is a me thing.
I wasn't close enough to it. I wasn't like, I'm never gonna do it. I was like, whatever happened, and I always been the type of person that is like, whatever happened, and if it happens because it's meant to happen. That's just how I am. So, but just the knowing about it activated something.
Yep.
And also I had already a set of belief because what I've experienced, like we were talking about off camera about the AIWS syndrome, which is the Alice in Wonderland syndrome, which is basically, you see the author that actually wrote the book, all of these is his own experiences, which mean he actually saw the other side, saw different aspect of this construct, etc. But obviously, medically speaking, they call it that.
They call it that, yeah.
Yeah. And I used to hear voices, like thousands of voices, and it felt like all realities were merging. So that's how it felt to me. So I was like sitting in the school bus, and all of a sudden it started happening. And I was like closing my eyes, so it stopped because I used to feel like reality changing and everything. So what I'm saying is that because I had this experience, and then I was able to hear about some of the testimony, the videos, etc., that just brought me to actually have that experience. I didn't actually, use the method per se, but the frequency of it just activated it.
Yeah. So I'll say this too. What science calls a condition, I call an ability. So you look, they'll explain it away as a condition because they don't have any explanation for it. And the real true explanation for it, they don't want to give it because if they give it, then they know other people will try to duplicate it. This is why the government knows about remote viewing. It's literally, I have CIA documents that show where they teach people how to do it, but they will never let the public have this information. Not yet anyway. Because ultimately, I'll tell you the whole purpose of the great work, as I see it, no matter how you get there, is to eliminate fear. Fear is the ultimate enslaver. That is what's enslaving us. That is what's making us. This is what's keeping us slaves to the construct. Is fear. Fear of death. Fear of
persecution.
Loss, fear of persecution. Fear of people not believing you. Fear of hell. Fear of angry God that's going to do something to you if you don't worship him. Which ironically, all gods are him. I don't know how that worked.
Fear of abandonment.
Fear of abandonment. But it's all fear-based. Every single thing that is keeping you attached to this construct is based in fear. Whether it's religion, finances, the lack thereof. So the purpose of all this for me is to relieve myself of fear. And the first thing I relieve myself of the fear of is the fear of death. Once you have an OBE and you've experienced yourself losing your breath like you talked about, and you're like, wait, what? And then you go on the other side and you still realize you still exist as yourself. Nothing about me changed. Now, maybe if I'd have looked in my mirror, I would have changed my physical features or whatever. I probably could have done that. But my thoughts were still the same. My inquisitive nature was still the same. I cursed the first time I went out of my body. I said, what the fuck? When I was trying to find the sun. Darius has even told us people still have sex on the other side.
Well, this is another thing as well. I will get into that because there's a whole bag. That's a whole
needless
situation.
to say, my wife wasn't very happy to find out that was going on the other side. She said, "You better not be going over there having sex with nobody." I'm like, okay. But yeah.
I would be like, so what, can you explain to me wet dreams then? And I was like, especially ones that feel real. And it was like, okay,
there you go. And there you go. And there you go. So,
and then I'm like, wow, I got to pull back in so many ways from watching so many things because they trigger other things. And I do see a correlation.
Yeah.
You know, I might want to tell him about it because maybe he out there, you know what I mean? Gathering cheeks and not even knowing. Babes, this is real. This is real.
The influence is that there is obviously in this construct and all these things people don't know.
Yeah.
This is actually very interesting to see what you know about it, and if there's anything now you've changed in your day-to-day life.
Yeah.
When you're
crazy.
Not doing anymore. Some people like stop having TV.
Crazy. Crazy you asked that question because, and a shameless plug, if you go watch my latest video, I got 7 ways the out-of-body experience would change your inner body experience. So if you haven't watched that video, go watch it. The first thing it did, it changed the fear. That was the first thing. It removed fear from my life. I'm not scared of anything. If it's funny because everybody's watching what's going on in Israel and Iran and stuff. And I was telling my friend today, if a missile hit this house right now, I wouldn't care. I'd be like, cool, I'm going back home. Like, I don't even look at death the same way. When celebrities die, like people that, like, you know, how people on the internet, they be like, R.I.P. so-and-so, some famous person died. I don't even say that. I say happy homegoing. Happy homegoing. That's what I say. Because this is not home.
Yeah.
You guys are married in this life. In another life, you might have been her brother or her sister or her dad.
That's a whole thing. I'm not going to lie to I've experienced since I found out that this is the stuff I've been doing is real. Like, I've had many lifetimes with him and we've played many different roles. So it's been a journey.
Right.
It's been insightful.
Funny. I had a download the other day, and I cannot now start knowing the difference between the two. I think I was washing up, something like that, and then they presented me with the idea of how to truly love even the person you're with, and it was like, you see, if your child was to do something, and you would say sometimes you because it's your child, you will just have this sort of unconditional love. But when it's your partner and they do something to you, that's egregious. You're so upset about that because you kind of know them as, biologically speaking, not being from your blood, right?
Right.
However, if now all of a sudden you were remembering maybe your past life, one of your past life, where they were your child, so how will that make you feel? And then just trying to send me these informations about how to feel about certain things. And I've been having these type of experiences now since I had the out of body experience. So is it the same? I suppose it's the same for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you get downloads?
Do you get downloads? And
that's what I was just saying before. I get downloads about everything. Now, before I started having OBEs, I used to think I'm just thinking of things. Now I'm understanding that these things aren't from my brain, they're from my soul. I look at the whole anatomy of the body differently now. People put so much importance on your brain. It's just a tool. It's just a part of the Iron Man suit. It doesn't control anything. It's the soul that makes the brain work. The soul is the driver. So, and I say that to say this, everything that I think, feel, believe, that comes from the soul. My soul is receiving these downloads. So when I said this particular OBE made me go research this particular thing. Well, that's a download I received. And so just like you, like I had to learn how to love my wife different. I learned how to forgive easier because I understand that everything that's happening, good or bad, I agreed for it to happen. So if my wife says something I don't like, even though emotionally I'm going to feel away for a certain amount of time, I have to get over that because I knew she was going to say or do that thing before I ever came here. And because I have that understanding of the nature of this construct, and that the only reason I didn't know she was going to do that is because when you come here, you come through water. That's why they say there's water above. You come through water. That's the sea of forgetfulness that they talk about in the Bible. Water, that purifies any remembrance that you have at the other side, so that when you come here, you can have an honest experience. The whole purpose of you being here is to be God in the flesh, experiencing things that you can't experience on the other side because they don't exist on the other side. Evil does not exist on the other side unless you believe it to be so. You come here to experience that which you are not. That's Darius says that all the time. And because of that, my whole thought process is everything I'm experiencing now, I knew I was going to experience. So I have to love people through it, good or bad. And it's hard. Don't get it twisted because I'm still a human. I'm still living in this human flesh with human emotions and things like that. But the best thing I'm taking from it is learning how to be fearless and to forgive. I always say the two key things that I'm learning: how to be fearless and not have fear of things, but also how to forgive people. And like my wife isn't big on OB. She hasn't tried it. She's really not. She says she ain't ready for that yet because she feels like that would scare her into certain things or whatever. And that's fine. But to be able to love her through that and help her understand, I'm like, it's okay. You know, you don't have to be what I'm on, but I'm still going to pursue this because this is what was put inside of me. I think a lot of times because we love the people we love so much, we feel like they have to do everything that we're doing or else we're not going the same direction. But that's not really true. We're all here to run our own race and have our own experience. And we agree to be part of each other's experience for a specific amount of time. I've been married before. So my first marriage, we agreed before I came here for us to get married. But we also agreed that there will come a point in time where we wouldn't be married anymore. And I would move on with my life and she would move on with hers. And we would have a fork and go different directions. But all of that is par for the course because you had already agreed to it. And I can't stress that enough, is that nothing that's happened to you is happenstance. It's all stuff you knew would happen, and it's all stuff that you agreed to allow happen in your life. Even the decisions you make. This is why I don't, when people say, do you believe in free will? I'll be like, yes and no, because it's free because you do have the freedom to make decisions, but you already knew you was going to make those decisions. So it's not like you're not surprising yourself by the decisions you make. You knew soul-wise, you knew that. And now that I've been to the other side and I know that I'm the same person there that I am here, now I can understand why I do some of the things I do. I can understand even my less godlike moments where I'm more selfish or I'm angry or this. I understand it. Oh, I needed to experience that because how does a God know what evil is if he hasn't experienced it? Right. You know, so me and my friend was talking about that before this thing where I told you I was talking to my friend, and God is not a man sitting on a throne. God is a frequency, and is the frequency of unadulterated, pure love. And we are all made of that frequency. Absolutely. And we come down as little particles of that frequency to inhabit these bodies to experience what the opposite of love is. This is why you'll get people that do some of the most horrendous things because they need to have that experience. Everything that has to be experienced in this realm has to be experienced.